Welcome to NTD Newsroom. I'm Don Ma. President Trump announcing the latest progress in Operation Epic Fury and reveals what he thinks of Iran's leadership that's left and how countries are responding to the president's call for securing the Strait of Hormuz. The Israeli military launching a ground maneuver in Lebanon today, and the military saying it destroyed the Iran aircraft used by the former leader Ali Khamenei. A federal appeals court is allowing the Trump administration to deport illegal aliens to third countries. Attorney General Pam Bondi calls the ruling a key win for the president's immigration agenda. As protesters set fire to a local communist office in Cuba, President Trump signaling that Cuba could be next after Iran. A massive storm system sweeping the eastern part of the U.S., unleashing severe weather, including damaging winds and heavy snow for more than 100 million people.
This is NTD Newsroom, live from our global headquarters in New York City.
Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us today. Just moments ago, President Trump announcing the U.S. has struck over 7,000 Iranian targets while saying all of Iran's leaders are dead. And as oil prices rise, the president ramping up pressure for countries to join U.S. efforts in securing the Strait of Hormuz. Joining us now live is NTD's White House correspondent, Iris Tao. Iris, good afternoon. Good to see you. Can you tell us what is the latest with the situation?
Sure. So President Trump at a White House event just moments ago announcing some fresh numbers, including, for example, 9,000 Iranian targets struck, 90% reduction in Iran's ballistic missile launches, and 95% reduction in Iran's drone attacks, as well as over 100 of Iran's naval vessels now destroyed or sunk. And President Trump said also saying that, quote, all of Iran's leadership, all of their leaders are dead, and saying that actually no one in administration even knows who is currently in charge of Iran, as even a supposed new leader hasn't been seen by anyone to prove that he's still alive. Of course, in a show of military capabilities, President Trump also today touting the latest strike on the Karg Island over the weekend, which is an economic lifeline for Iran, as it really is responsible for about 90% of Iran's crude oil exports. And here's how the president talked about it today. Watch.
We attacked Karg Island and knocked it literally, destroyed everything on the island except for the area where the oil is. I call it the pipes. We left the pipes. We didn't want to do that, but we will do that. We can do that on 5 minutes notice. It'll be over. But for purposes of someday rebuilding that country, I guess we did the right thing.
Meanwhile, today, President Trump also doubling down on his request, if not demand, for countries including, for example, China, but also allies like the UK, as well as France and Germany and Japan and South Korea, to join the U.S. efforts in helping to secure the Strait of Hormuz, which is now effectively closed due to Iran threats. Today, President Trump says that while some are on their way to help the U.S., he is also expected to be disappointed in some others who aren't going to return the U.S.'s help over the years. Watch.
Iran has always used that as an economic weapon, and it's not going to be able to be used very long. Numerous countries have told me they're on the way. Some are very enthusiastic about it, and some aren't. Some are countries that we've helped for many, many years.
And so far, some countries have publicly responded, including, for example, Germany, who says they won't come help, as they say it's not a matter for NATO. And the UK saying that they want to develop a viable plan to keep that strait secure. And China, meanwhile, is sidestepping the question of whether they will listen to Trump. We know that this morning, the White House saying that President Trump might delay his upcoming trip to China, which would happen in just 2 weeks, if not for the latest change. The White House saying that this is a logistical change, as the president needs to stay in Washington, D.C., of course, as the war develops.
So, Iris, can you brief us on a key topic that Americans, many of them, are watching, and that's oil prices? Today dipping briefly as President Trump again calling on nations to secure the key oil route, Strait of Hormuz. So what is the president saying today about his calculation on that?
Sure. So a lot of Americans are concerned about it because we are seeing gas prices here in the U.S. rising. And yesterday we saw oil prices actually rising to its highest level since 2022. And President today again reassuring Americans that these pains will be short-lived, saying that inflation as well as oil prices will drop rapidly once the conflict is over.
I can tell you that when this is over, oil prices are going to go down very, very rapidly. So is inflation, so is everything else. But frankly, much more important than short-term, even long-term oil prices, you can't let the most violent, vicious country in the last 50 years have a nuclear weapon. Because the Middle East will be gone, Israel will go first, without question, and they'll certainly take a shot at us before we get our act together and say we got to take them out.
And as you mentioned, Don, oil prices did dip briefly today, but overall is still about 40% higher than before this whole conflict in Iran began. That said, President Trump last night, talking to reporters on Air Force One, says that he does not mind any political costs associated with his move, saying that he's doing what needs to be done.
Okay, just one last thing, Iris, before we let you go here. The president today revealing that White House Chief of Staff Susie Wiles has a cancer diagnosis. Tell us about that.
Right, so that is truly breaking. The president today first announcing on Truth Social, but of course later we saw Susie Wiles sitting right next to him at the White House event today with the Trump Kennedy Center board. Basically, the president announcing that Susie Wiles has an early stage breast cancer and will be now working still for the Trump White House, but remotely. And Trump says he is happy about that, about the fact that she can still keep working for him in that capacity. We know that Susie Wiles has been a long time person in the Trump orbit, been around for a long time, and was also very vital to President Trump's 2024 campaign victory. And of course, she is also the first female chief of staff to a U.S. president.
Okay, well, keep us updated on that, and thank you very much for your time today.
Of course.
And next, President Trump's visit to China at the end of the month may be postponed. Here's Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent speaking in Paris today after meeting with the Chinese trade delegation.
I want to absolutely bifurcate that if the president's visit, and I'm saying if the president's visit is postponed, it would have nothing to do with the Chinese making a commitment to the Straits of Hormuz. It would obviously be in their interest to do so, but a postponement would not be as a result of any ask from the president not being met. The postponement, if it happens, would be because the Commander-in-Chief of the United States military believes that he should stay in the United States while this war is being prosecuted.
Bessent and U.S. Trade Representative Jameson Greer just wrapped up 2 days of talks with their Chinese counterparts. It's in preparation for the highly anticipated meeting between President Trump and Chinese regime leader Xi Jinping. The meeting is scheduled from March 31st to April 2nd. Bessent calling the talks constructive, and Greer saying they concluded the general terms of a work plan for the time remaining before the summit. Bessent and Greer say they also talked about expanding agriculture and energy exports to China and potentially having a U.S.-China Board of Trade. They say this would be a mechanism to identify what to import from China and what to export to China. Here's White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt speaking to reporters this morning on the same issue. Take a listen.
The president looks forward to visiting China. The dates may be moved. As Commander-in-Chief, it's his #1 priority right now to ensure the continued success of this operation, Epic Fury. So we'll keep you posted on the dates as soon as we can.
Oil prices are climbing again as the Iran war threatens global oil supply. In response, the International Energy Agency last week announced a record release of 400 million barrels from strategic reserves, including 172 million from the United States. The agency's executive director provided an update today saying more oil could be released as needed.
Despite this huge release, we still have a lot of stocks left. This current stock release, once it is completed, will reduce the emergency stocks in IEA countries only by around 20%.
Brent crude hit $102 a barrel today. The biggest concern remains the Strait of Hormuz, a critical route for global oil shipments. Despite the large release of oil, ING Bank said last week the market is rallying because there are no signs of de-escalation in the Persian Gulf. Energy Secretary Chris Wright says the conflict could end soon, which may help bring prices back down. He told ABC yesterday he thinks the conflict will certainly come to an end in the next few weeks, if not sooner. The Energy Secretary is directing an oil company to resume operations in California amid rising oil prices. Joining us now to talk about this is Bart Marcoy, former career diplomat, Energy Department official, and foreign policy analyst. Bart, good afternoon. Always great to have you on the show. So Governor Gavin Newsom says restoring production at the oil facility will have no impact on lowering global oil prices. Your response?
Well, Gavin Newsom is pointing out the small number of barrels. He's saying, oh, it's only 0.05%. And that's correct. The global demand is 100 million barrels a day, and this will produce about 50,000 barrels a day. But long term, it will have a much greater impact than releasing oil from the strategic petroleum reserves of Western countries. The only way to combat a long-term threat to oil supply is to increase long-term oil supply. This is a beginning, and it's absolutely the right step to take. Gavin Newsom is playing fast and loose. And, you know, he's one to talk about prices. If you look at the average gasoline price across the United States, it's about $3.59, $3.69 a gallon. But if you take out California prices, it's only about $3.29 a gallon because California prices are $5.50 a gallon because people like Gavin Newsom have created artificial shortages in California and then taxed the gasoline on top of that. He's not somebody anybody should go to for advice on the oil markets or on pricing or supply and demand.
And to your point, Bart, the Energy Department also cited some of those points that California's policies have led the region and U.S. military forces dependent on foreign oil. Maybe you can just talk a bit more about that, about these policies.
Sure. So you know, let me back up a little. I was born and raised in Kern County, California, which, to the shock of almost everybody in America, Kern County, California is still the #3 most oil-producing county in America. Still to this day, as far as I know. As of a year and a half ago, it still was. And it's producing oil in traditional methods. There is a ton of oil in California, in Kern County, in the Signal Hill area farther south, along the coast, and especially out along the coastlines. And it is the policies of people that have shut down that oil supply that have made oil less available and therefore more expensive. And this was an explicit policy of the Chinese Communist Party, was to convince American politicians and American consumers to stop producing American oil, gas, and coal because China wants to buy it cheaply, and they want us to stop producing our own. They don't want us they don't want us using it. It's a terrible situation. And when you get to gasoline prices, there's an artificial shortage created because of the high ridiculous environmental standards in California, and only a handful of refineries in the world can produce the gasoline that they use in California. And they also use that gasoline in Arizona and Nevada.
Okay, so Chris Wright has also talked about national security concerns from a national security aspect of restarting this oil facility in California. Can you just comment on that? What is your view on the situation from a national security perspective? Just expand on that point.
Sure. From a national security perspective, you want to produce as much domestic energy as possible. Energy is the sine qua non of national security. Everything we do depends on widely available, easily affordable energy supplies. The thing that differentiates us from, people living in, say, Malawi, or people living in the 18th or 19th centuries is access to energy on demand. We can flip a switch and know that the light is going to go on, the machine is going to work, the data will be produced by our computers. It all depends on energy. And the country that is strong is the country that produces its own energy and is not dependent on a foreign nation for it.
And it also gives the U.S. More power on the world stage, right? Because if it's independent when it comes to energy, then it can impose, for example, sanctions on oil-producing countries, certain ones, and it wouldn't have much of an impact domestically in terms of oil prices.
Absolutely. And it's a big reason for the cowardly, craven policies of the UK and Western Europe regarding the Middle East. They are dependent on oil. Almost all of their oil comes out of the Strait of Hormuz, especially Western Europe. And almost none of ours does. That locking down the strait doesn't affect our oil supply. It affects the world market price, but it does not affect our physical supply.
Okay, Bart, just one final thing. I'm wondering if you could respond to certain criticisms or opposing arguments about opening this facility in California, this oil production facility. So as you're aware, in 2015, a pipeline rupture spilled crude oil along the Santa Barbara coastline. Some of the opponents of this administration's move are citing safety and environmental concerns. Does that have any bearing on the conversation we're having here when we're talking about whether national security, bringing down oil prices, or just the overall situation with Iran?
I'm glad you asked that. It brings up another point about Gavin Newsom. In his statement, he said something about this is something that is going to ruin our beautiful beaches. It's a bad look for Newsom to be talking about going to the beach and beautiful beaches when what we're talking about is human life and life on Earth as we know it. People are worried about the new missiles that Iran is producing and that they're using. They're worried about the lives of American servicemen and women overseas. They're worried about all kinds of things when Iran only has missiles with conventional high explosives. Imagine what it would be like if we were dealing with an Iran that had intercontinental ballistic missiles that could reach Washington, that could reach Los Angeles, that could blow up all of Long Beach and not just sully the beach. Those are, an environmental concern is very valid, but taking proper safety measures, safety precautions is all that's necessary. That spill was caused by unsafe procedures by passing ships. It was not caused by anything that the energy companies had done wrong. And safeguarding that is a relatively simple thing, and that is nothing compared to the cost of human life. Imagine a nuclear missile hitting Los Angeles and knocking out every hospital just at the time that you have just killed 1 million people and injured 4 million more. People need to get a perspective on this. And what we're doing, we have decided to respond to Iran's 47 years of warmongering against us now, because now is the moment of their greatest weakness in those 47 years. This is the time to stop the evil that the Islamic Republic of Iran has propagated.
Well, all right, Bart, great points. Always enjoyed speaking with you. I won't keep you here any longer. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Don. Thanks a lot. Bye.
A federal appeals court is allowing the Trump administration to deport illegal aliens to third countries. Attorney General Pam Bondi calls the ruling a key win for the president's immigration agenda. More news after this break. Stay with us.
The bladder control aisle. You won't shop here again. Your private business is your own. The constant struggle is over. Now there's a better way. It's HDIS. We home deliver bladder control products. We understand how you feel. For over 25 years, we've home delivered to many of the 20 million Americans who deal with incontinence. We offer all brands. We pay shipping and use plain, unmarked boxes. If we can help you or someone you care for, call for your free product sample pack and $45 in money-saving coupons. Our counselors will help you choose the right product. And unlike stores, we're always in stock. You'll get what you need. Satisfaction guaranteed. HDIS, the better way.
For your free sample pack with your free catalog, $45 in money-saving coupons, and free product samples, call 1-800-701-6159. That's 1-800-701-6159.
Imagine a coffee that cares for your health. Expertly fermented with a 50-enzyme complex to enhance flavor and remove bitterness. Small batch roasted to a decadent medium dark, resulting in a brew that is gentle on digestion, low acid, and up to 90% less caffeine than regular coffee. Try America's first enzyme fermented coffee today.
It's finally here, our second annual mega sale. This sale only comes around once a year, so take advantage of the best offers ever while you can. For example, save 50% on our Giza Dream bed sheets, as low as $29.98. And for the first time ever on TV, My Pillow mattresses and My Pillow mattress toppers, as low as $99.98. And you save 50% on our Lux Pure 6-piece towel sets, regular $69.98. Now only $39.98. And our best-selling standard My Pillows, regular $49.98, on sale for $17.98. Wait on it, mega sale, only $14.98. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use this promo code to take advantage of our second annual mega sale. But wait, there's more. To make the mega sale even more special, when you order right now, your order's going to ship absolutely free.
A federal appeals court is allowing the Trump administration to deport illegal immigrants to so-called third countries. Attorney General Pam Bondi hailed the decision, calling it a key win for the president's immigration agenda. The case started last March when 4 plaintiffs filed a class action suit after the government tried to deport them to countries other than their home nation. Last month, a district judge ruled the government could not deport illegal immigrants to third countries without giving them meaningful notice and an opportunity to dispute their removal. However, today the Boston-based First Circuit Court of Appeals suspended the district judge's order. The appeals court added that it would hold oral arguments in a case after a briefing in mid-April. The shutdown of the Department of Homeland Security enters its 5th week, leading hundreds of TSA agents to quit their jobs. Lawmakers remain divided over how to move to fund the DHS, with Democrats insisting on changes to ICE policy. NTD's Melina Weisskopf reports.
Essential airport personnel are making for the exit after being forced to work without pay.
This is a much tougher shutdown than what we had back in the fall.
Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy says about 300 TSA agents have quit their jobs. Those who are staying on the job are calling out of work at a rate double than normal, causing some travelers to wait more than 3 hours or longer at busy airports. 50,000 TSA agents have already missed a partial payment and a full payment.
The fact is they can't afford it. Most TSA workers, as most Americans are, living paycheck to paycheck. So to be going through this again so close to the last shutdown is detrimental to a lot of officers.
The gridlock in Congress continues, senators failing to approve funding for the DHS before leaving Washington last Thursday. Democrats are insisting on changes to how ICE operates.
I will not approve another dollar for ICE, given all that they're doing. But we should be funding those TSA agents that keep us safe.
Democrats tried to separate TSA funding from the broader DHS bill, a move that would likely prolong the DHS shutdown. Republicans rejected the idea, saying it would create a dangerous precedent. Republicans also saying there haven't been any attempts at good faith negotiations.
It's disingenuous. Here they are telling you they want to see reforms. But I am here to tell you that they have not come to the table. Despite countless offers to sit down and try to find a pathway forward, they will not even have a conversation with us.
CEOs from major airlines sent a letter to Congress on Sunday emphasizing that it is simply unacceptable to expect TSA officers to work without pay. The CEOs wrote, once again, air travel is the political football amid another government shutdown.
The powers to be have the ability to correct this tomorrow. People should make the right decision. You see what's going on in the country. You see what's going on in the world. We're not immune.
The CEOs are urging lawmakers to immediately solve the issue and make sure it never happens again. Senators will return to Washington today amid the stalemate. Reporting from Washington, D.C., Melina Weisskopf, NTD News.
And moving now to what could be next for Cuba, a country under communist rule since 1959. President Trump saying aboard Air Force One yesterday that he's talking to Cuba.
We have a lot of great people from Cuba that were violently and viciously thrown out of the country, and worse, their families were killed. And so we're talking to Cuba, but we're going to do Iran before Cuba.
And what is at risk?
And, people have been waiting 50 years to hear this story with Cuba. And when I left Palm Beach today, there were thousands of people on the road. I'm sure you saw them. And they were from Cuba and from Venezuela, all friendly, waving the flag and waving the American flag. They've been waiting 50 years for what's happening with Cuba. So I think something will happen with Cuba pretty quickly.
Footage from central Cuba from Saturday shows a local Communist Party office on fire. Authorities say 5 people were arrested, and the demonstration was linked to the island's energy supply issues and access to food. Cuba is enduring more blackouts and severe fuel shortages as countries across the region stop supplying oil. It comes as President Trump cut off oil exports to the island, accusing the communist regime of aligning with hostile foreign powers and terrorist groups. Congresswoman Maria Salazar posting on X saying Cuba is in total collapse. After decades of repression and socialist disaster, the dictatorship is finally cracking under its own weight. The Congresswoman is the daughter of Cuban exiles. She also writes, across the island, Cubans are standing up and demanding what the regime has denied them for generations: freedom. Salazar concludes by saying America stands with the Cuban people as they fight to reclaim their country.
President Trump says he retains the absolute right to impose tariffs. The president saying he had other legal avenues after a Supreme Court ruling struck down a major portion of his administration's tariff program. In a post on Truth Social, President Trump criticized the court's decision invalidating the tariffs, but said the ruling left open other avenues for importing or imposing duties. He wrote, quote, "The court pointed out, I have the absolute right to charge tariffs in another form and have already started to do so." The court's decision invalidated Trump's imposed tariffs under the president's emergency powers. However, one day after the Supreme Court's ruling, Trump raised tariffs on all countries to 15% under the Trade Act of 1974. The president's authority to raise tariffs under the Trade Act can last 150 days without congressional approval. A massive storm system is sweeping across the eastern U.S., unleashing severe weather with damaging winds and heavy snow. The storm's snowy side packed the most significant punch early yesterday for millions in north-central U.S. But today, more than 100 million people in the eastern half of the country are facing a significant severe thunderstorm and tornado risk. Here are the details.
Just trying to keep up with the snow and coming out every couple hours to keep up on it.
The Midwest and Great Lakes slammed with heavy snow over the weekend.
I couldn't see because my glasses had all filled with ice and snow.
More than a foot of snow buried parts of central Wisconsin and southern Minnesota by Sunday morning.
We did have probably 3 to 4 snowplows
slide off the road.
On top of extremely heavy snowfall hitting millions in the north central U.S., powerful winds whipping it up to create dangerous whiteouts in some areas.
We actually ended up lost because we couldn't see one of the road signs.
The punishing winter weather making for extremely hazardous driving conditions.
It's terrible. I would absolutely not be out driving if I didn't have to be. If you don't have a 4x4, I wouldn't leave at all.
Strong winds creating hazardous road conditions much farther south as well. Video out of Texas showing multiple vehicles wrecked, including a pickup truck crashed under a semi after strong winds whipped up dust, leading to what the National Weather Service warned would be near zero visibility. While blizzard warnings continue into Monday for some in the Midwest, the severe weather is also pushing east, with millions of people facing an increasingly severe thunderstorm and tornado risk.
Severe weather has led to more than 4,000 flight cancellations in the U.S. so far today. Flight tracking data shows over 14,000 flights delayed. According to FlightAware, 475 flights at Chicago O'Hare International and another 300 at Atlanta's Hartsfield-Jackson International have been canceled. New York's JFK saw over 200 cancellations and 170 delays, and LaGuardia with nearly 400 cancellations and over 140 delays. The disruptions follow more than 3,200 cancellations and 10,000 delays nationwide yesterday. And NTD attended the seafood industry's largest trade event this weekend in Boston. The 44th Seafood Expo North America hosted companies representing 50 countries. Let's take a look.
Healthy seafood is wild seafood.
The Seafood Expo North America 45th edition in Boston. A three-day event bringing the seafood industry under one roof.
This year we have over 1,200 exhibiting companies from 50 different countries.
Seafood Expo North America showcases every aspect of the global seafood supply chain.
There's a lot of moving parts in getting seafood from around the world to the United States.
With companies presenting fresh, frozen, canned, value-added, processed, and packaged products.
And so for us, it's very important to make sure we bring from the fishermen to the table a good, wild, sustainable, healthy protein source. The customers, they're the ones that send the demands to the restaurants, to their own local markets, and that demand travels up, right, all the way to us as their processor and supplier to make sure that we give them the best quality, wild, organic seafood directly to the plate.
The key for us is adaptation. It's like, how quickly can we turn and shift to another country of supply? Whether it's, everything from getting a ship to the U.S. or price discrepancy.
Thousands of buyers and suppliers from around the world attended the annual exhibition to meet, network, and do business.
3 days all under one roof where we have the entire supply chain here. So that's everybody from seafood producers to processors to processing companies, logistics companies. It's the one place that you can do business in 3 days.
Attending buyers represent importers, exporters, wholesalers, restaurants, supermarkets, hotels, and other retail and food service companies.
Well, I think, there's the age-old conversation in this industry. It's the only protein where everyone seems to care about fresh versus frozen and farmed versus wild.
The restaurants, right, and distributors, they are very much market-driven by their customer demand. And the customer demand right now is a very conscious customer. They want wild, they want natural product, they want something that's a healthy alternative, right, to other proteins. Compared to chicken or beef or pork, right? We are the #1 healthiest protein in the world.
The expo runs until Tuesday, March 17th.
The Israeli military launching a ground maneuver in Lebanon today, and the military saying it destroyed the aircraft used by Iran's former leader Ali Khamenei. We have more news after this break. Stay with us.
I have traveled all over the world to 50 countries now, and I have never seen a production any better than this anywhere.
Breathtaking. It is absolutely stunning.
It's so uplifting.
I feel better about the world.
It was encouraging, gave me hope.
It was absolutely amazingly divine.
I thought that I was going to heaven.
You have to come see it.
Multiple times.
It's worth every penny. Make sure you see it.
make sure you see it.
Returns to David Koch Theater, March 25th through April 12th. Shenyun.com. Whispered across generations, a hidden secret unveils the essence of longevity and vitality. A timeless legend regarding energy and wonder. Rooted in ancient health wisdom, we proudly introduce Pure Tang Black Ginseng, a 100% natural, organic energy drink made from premium 6-year-old Korean ginseng. It takes 2,260 days and nights from seed to growth, undergoing a meticulous 9-step process of steaming and drying. Black ginseng reaches its full potency, enriched with ginsenoside RG3 and enhanced absorption efficiency. No sugar, no caffeine, no artificial ingredients. Experience the pure natural power of Pure Tang Black Ginseng. Nourish your body, strengthen your immunity, and boost your energy. To order Pure Tang Black Ginseng, please visit puretang.com.
I trod on my glasses yesterday, and I had to pay up front for a new pair that I can't even pick up for another 10 days. So I looked for another way, and I found Select Specs. I ordered online. My new glasses just arrived this morning, and I can pay over the next few weeks. This is the way to buy glasses.
See now, pay later with Select Specs. Next day delivery and deferred payment options only at selectspecs.com.
Tired of struggling with that heavy leaf blower? Introducing the Bullseye Power Blower. It delivers a massive blowing force, and yet it's so compact and lightweight. Just lock and load the rechargeable battery for long-lasting runtime. The secret is the compact turbocharged motor with jet burst technology that blasts out 21,000 RPMs of airflow. Watch this. The sheer force propels this woman across the pool. Look, use Bullseye to blow up a huge jump house. Now that's power. Even blows snow right off your vehicle in no time. Turbo clean your porch in a flash or tidy up your dirty garage floor in seconds. Get it today for just $99.99. But wait, act now and get a $20 discount. So it's only $79.99. Plus, you'll get the adjustable extension tube. Yours free. And it all comes with free shipping. Order now.
Call 1-800-209-2313 or go to bullseyeblower.com. That's 1-800-209-2313 or order online at bullseyeblower.com. Order now.
U.S. Central Command offering new details about Operation Epic Fury. The military today showing before and after comparisons of Iranian sites hit during the operation. Commander Brad Cooper is saying the photos show what remains of facilities used to manufacture weapons.
Let me show you, for the first time, a few examples of how we are dismantling Iran's defense industrial base, which will prevent threats to the region into the future. Here you see a photo from March 1st of a naval drone storage facility located near the Strait of Hormuz. This is the same location 8 days later, completely destroyed. Next, here's a photo taken of an attack drone production factory in Tehran on March 5th. Here's that same factory 6 days later after a devastating barrage of U.S. airstrikes. And finally, the Yazdi military depot, pictured here last month. These 8 buildings are part of the IRGC's missile command infrastructure and are used to produce light and heavyweight torpedoes. Now, here's that same military depot just last week, or what's left of it. U.S. and partner strikes are doing exactly what they are intended to do, deliver on very clear military objectives to eliminate Iran's ability to project power against Americans and against its neighbors.
Admiral Cooper says the U.S. is focused on removing threats to shipping in the Strait of Hormuz. He said more than 100 Iranian naval vessels have been destroyed by U.S. and partner forces, adding the campaign will continue to reduce Iran's ability to threaten navigation in the region. Israel says it has detailed plans for at least 3 more weeks of war with Iran. A military spokesperson saying the goal is to weaken Iran's ability to threaten Israel. Meanwhile, Israeli troops are carrying out a ground maneuver against Hezbollah terrorist positions in Lebanon. Here's Defense Minister Israel Katz with an update.
The Israel Defense Forces has begun a ground maneuver in Lebanon in order to remove threats and protect the residents of the Galilee and the north. Hundreds of thousands of Shiite residents of southern Lebanon who evacuated and are evacuating their homes from southern Lebanon to Beirut will not return to their homes south of the Litani until the safety of the residents of the north is ensured.
Meanwhile, Israeli forces launching strikes across Iran overnight. Targets include ballistic missile sites, nuclear facilities, and security forces. The military says more than 700 Iranian missile array targets have been hit. It says thousands of targets inside Iran remain. The IDF also saying it destroyed an aircraft used by Iran's former leader, Ali Khamenei, who was killed in the war 2 weeks ago. And Iran launching new strikes across the Gulf region. Drone attacks temporarily shutting down the Dubai International Airport today. The attack hit a fuel depot near the airport, causing a fire. The airport has now resumed limited flights. A major oil facility in the United Arab Emirates was also hit today.
As the fighting in Iran continues, international leaders are looking for options to mitigate the fallout of a closure of the Strait of Hormuz. Iran is threatening all ships trying to use the passage in the Persian Gulf, which accounts for almost 25% of global oil trade. NTD's international correspondent Arian Pastar has the latest.
But ultimately, we have to reopen the Strait of Hormuz to ensure stability in the market.
British Prime Minister Keir Starmer saying the UK is working on a plan to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. Ships can no longer pass through the strait after Iran threatened to attack any cargo ship passing through it. Around 25% of all global oil trade flows through the strait. But the British leader stressing that the nation's plan won't involve Western allies.
Let me be clear, that won't be, and it's never been envisaged to be, a NATO mission. That'll have to be an alliance of partners, which is why we're working with partners both in Europe, in the Gulf, and with the US.
And the European Union unsure at this time if the bloc is going to take action.
We first have to discuss what the member states are willing to do in the Strait of Hormuz. And there is also discussion that there could be element when the big fighting is over. But of course, the needs to open the Strait of Hormuz are there right now.
And Japan's Prime Minister touching on the hypothetical question of sending vessels to the Persian Gulf.
The Japanese government is currently examining what necessary measures should be taken. Of course, this will be within the Japanese legal framework.
The Japanese Prime Minister is also scheduled to travel to Washington this week for talks with President Trump, which are expected to cover the conflict in Iran. Arian Pastar, NTD News.
The Interior Secretary says America's Asia-Pacific allies have agreed to $57 billion over 22 deals with American companies. Doug Burgum saying the deals were struck during this weekend's Indo-Pacific Strategy or Energy Security Forum in Tokyo. In an interview on Fox News Sunday Morning Futures, Burgum adding that Japan was interested in buying more U.S. oil. He also says Japan is helping to lead a coalition of nations to put more oil supply in the market. Burgum says the forum highlighted the need to sell energy to allies so they don't have to buy from U.S. adversaries. President Trump's visit to China at the end of the month may be postponed. Here's Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent speaking in Paris today after meeting with the Chinese trade delegation.
I want to absolutely bifurcate that if the president's visit, and I'm saying if the president's visit is postponed, it would have nothing to do with the Chinese making a commitment to the Straits of Hormuz. It would obviously be in their interest to do so, but a postponement would not be as a result of any ask from the president not being met. The postponement, if it happens, would be because the Commander-in-Chief of the United States military believes that he should stay in the United States while this war is being prosecuted.
Bessent and U.S. Trade Representative Jameson Greer just wrapped up 2 days of talks with their Chinese counterparts. It's in preparation for the highly anticipated meeting between President Trump and Chinese regime leader Xi Jinping. The meeting is scheduled from March 31st to April 2nd. Bessent calling the talks constructive, and Greer saying they concluded the general terms of a work plan for the time remaining before the summit. Bessent and Greer say they also talked about expanding agriculture and energy exports to China and potentially having a U.S.-China Board of Trade. They say this would be a mechanism to identify what to import from China and what to export to China. Here's White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt speaking to reporters this morning on the same issue. Take a listen.
President looks forward to visiting China. The dates may be moved. As Commander-in-Chief, it's his #1 priority right now to ensure the continued success of this operation, Epic Fury. So we'll keep you posted on the dates as soon as we can.
President Trump said he may delay a planned meeting with Chinese leader Xi Jinping. Joining us now is Daniel Lacalle, chief economist at Tressis Hedge Fund, international financial analyst, and author of the book Freedom or Equality. Good afternoon, Daniel. Always good to see you. So can you just give us your perspective on this? Compare and contrast for us this upcoming meeting to previous meetings President Trump has had with Xi Jinping in terms of power dynamics and, of course, considering the current circumstances with the Strait of Hormuz, Iran, Venezuela, but also, as we talked about before, the Supreme Court's ruling on tariffs.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Don. I think that this is a completely different meeting relative to others that we have seen in previous occasions for a number of reasons. Number one is the ruling of the Supreme Court on tariffs. By now, we know that the government can continue to implement its trade strategy without any significant impact. More importantly, by now, we know that there is no single nation that has tried to recover the amounts paid in terms of tariffs. So I think that this is very important, as well as the trade deals remain in place, all of them. The other element that I think is very significant is that the visit from President Trump to China is going to coincide with a very delicate position of the Chinese economy because of the shutdown of the Strait of Hormuz. A lot of people are saying that China is still getting oil through the strait, but we must remember that the 80% of the volumes going through the Strait of Hormuz were going to China. So it's not that they're getting a couple of vessels, it's that they're losing in terms of imports of jet fuel, refined products, chemicals, oil, so many elements that are damaging the Chinese economy. We have seen the latest figures, and we know that China has had to double its imports of Urals crude oil from Russia. That is very, very poor quality for its refineries, and that it has decided to ban all exports of refined products outside of the country. So that is an element that gives a tremendous amount of power in terms of negotiation to President Trump. It gives the strength to say, look, if you need anything right now, it's a solution to the Strait of Hormuz. And what you need as well is to be able to recover very, very quickly trade with the United States.
Okay, so what do you think are China's goals right now going into this meeting?
I think that the number one goal is to reach a framework in terms of trade that is going to recover a lot of the exports that have been lost to the United States. What China has found out is that they did not have alternative markets to sell their products to, that they did not have the opportunity to find equally lucrative markets where they can sell at good prices like the United States. So I think that that is their number one priority, to recover trade with the United States. I think that the other element that the Chinese government is going to find quite challenging is that the United States administration is going to demand a very, very significant change in terms of the oversight of what is exported and imported, including the creation of an entire organism that will monitor trade with China and whether it's fair or whether it's going back to the old ways of doing things.
So Daniel, let me ask you this. If you remember the Phase 1 U.S.-China trade deal, which was signed in 2020, China didn't really live up to its agreements. I mean, obviously the situation is different now, but do you think it's dramatically different?
I think it is dramatically different. I think that the economic situation in China, despite all the headlines that we read about strong economic growth, etc., GDP is not what matters here. Look at the latest figures of real estate, of personal consumption, of industrial lending, of private sector lending. All those figures show an economy that is certainly struggling and that is certainly well below the what we could say the potential of the Chinese economy would dictate. But I think that a very different factor right now is that China thought, or the Chinese government thought, that it had the upper hand in terms of trade, that if they did not get away with their way of doing things, that the United States would suffer significant inflation, supply shortages, etc. We know by now that that hasn't happened. That hasn't happened at all. Therefore, it's a completely different, let's say, power dynamic. I think it's quite relevant. And to be fairly honest, the messages that the visit from President Trump may be delayed are interesting, because if you think about it, if the war lasts for a little bit longer and all these challenges that the Chinese economy mount on top of each other, the position of President Trump in the negotiation will be stronger and definitely can put pressure on China, which continues to be a strategic partner of the Iran regime.
So by your assessment then, if the situation is dramatically different this time, is it more likely then, am I correct in assuming that China will be more inclined to live up to whatever it agrees to?
I think it needs to. I don't think that they have any other option, but we have seen how the trade surplus has remained large, but the level of overcapacity, the level of challenges in working capital, the lost sales from many exporters that continue to pile up imports in China remain. Is that the evidence is exceedingly clear. There is no alternative for the US consumer in terms of Chinese products. Therefore, they need to live up to their agreements. And they know now that they don't have the luxury of looking elsewhere.
Okay, Daniel, just one final thing. And President Trump suggested that Beijing should assist in keeping the Strait of Hormuz open. And perhaps this actually puts China between a rock and a hard place, because, China maybe doesn't want to show that it's listening to the U.S. But on the other hand, if it doesn't help keep the Strait of Hormuz open, it's sort of shooting itself in the foot. What do you think?
Absolutely. It's the biggest impact on any economy from the Strait of Hormuz closure, the one on the Chinese economy. No one doubts it. And obviously that is the reason why China has banned all exports of refined products. That's because they fear shortages. So we know that. Now, obviously, the Chinese government is not going to go out and say, we have listened to President Trump and we're going to follow on that message. What they are likely to do is to call and exert pressure on the Iran regime, because the Iran regime doesn't exist without China. This is critical. The critical thing here is that the tougher it gets for the Chinese economy because of the closure of the Strait of Hormuz, the one that will suffer the most is, one, the Chinese economy, and therefore the Chinese government is likely to impose much stricter limits on the Iran regime, and those limits will be financial.
Well, all right, Daniel, always enjoy hearing your analysis. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you very much, Don. Have a good day.
A former U.S. Marine in Texas County, Missouri, is facing federal charges after prosecutors say he shared classified national defense information with people who aren't authorized to receive it. One of those messages allegedly went to someone believed to be in China. Seth Chambers was indicted Friday on 2 counts of willfully transmitting national defense information. Chambers previously worked as a Marine Corps intelligence analyst and later as a civilian contractor in Iraq. Prosecutors say he held a security clearance allowing him to access highly classified material, including top-secret information. According to court documents, Chambers allegedly sent excerpts from classified government documents to 2 different people. The first was in December 2022 when a white paper containing messages or passages from classified material was sent to someone in Maryland. The second allegedly happened in April 2023 when similar information was sent to someone believed to be in China. If convicted, Chambers faces up to 10 years in federal prison on each count. And now, with St. Patrick's Day coming up, people in Pennsylvania just wrapped up the 256th parade in Philadelphia on Sunday, one of the oldest St. Patrick's Day parades in the U.S. The event drew thousands of spectators to the city's bustling center for a vibrant celebration of Irish heritage. Let's check it out.
The parade took place along the major streets in downtown Philadelphia. This year's theme honored over 250 years of Irish contributions to America, aligning with the nation's upcoming 250th anniversary. Philadelphia Mayor Sherelle Parker joined the celebration, while also welcoming Ireland's Prime Minister, Michael Martin, accompanied by U.S. Congressman Brendan Boyle and other Philadelphia state-level and city-level officials.
My whole life, I come down every year to this parade. I've participated in this parade since birth, literally. And now as an elected official, it's great to be out here, being with your neighbors. Doesn't matter where you come from, what your ethnicity is or background is. Today is a day just about celebrating each other, honoring the Irish culture. You know, we're a nation of immigrants. My descendants came from Ireland, got off the boat right down the street right there. So we're here, we haven't left, and it's the honor and privilege of my life to represent our neighborhoods here in Philadelphia.
Crowds in green attire cheered with a variety of displays and activities. Attendees and audiences shared their joyful vibes all around.
This is our first time. So we got all dressed up just to come down and be part of the fun, right? So our ancestors way back, a couple hundred years, are from Ireland, so we thought this would be a great place to go.
That was a great parade. The weather was not too hot, not too cold. Good weather for marching.
I love this parade. Go Ireland! I love this parade. Family, tradition, love. What is not to like?
It's wonderful. It's always a great day. I bring my family. We have my granddaughter. It's all about family and our Irish traditions.
Been for us, an opportunity, again, to tell their story in song. And so every time we play parades and play events, we do so in memory of those folks and of the Irish sacrifice to help build America.
The parade set a festive tone ahead of actual St. Patrick's Day on Tuesday, March 17th, with the world's largest and oldest St. Patrick's Day parade taking place in New York City. From NTD News in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
President Trump will soon sign an executive order in the Oval Office creating a fraud task force along with Vice President J.D. Vance. We'll bring it to you live. Stay with us.
I go by Jackie. I'm 44 years old. I had 3 kids at the time and single mother. I was working 60 hours a week. Still couldn't pay the bills. Skipped meals so that they could eat. It's been hard because one thing falls into place, 10 things fall out of place. I just can't do this alone and make it work.
1 in 5 children face hunger in America, and food costs are rising. But everyone needs nourishing food to thrive, and they can when we work together so our neighbors can feed their families. Call or go online right now to join Feeding America with your gift of just $19 a month, only 63 cents a day. Together, thanks to a nationwide network of food banks, dedicated volunteers, and the monthly support of people like you, we can fill plates with nutritious food for families across America.
One day my mother came over to my house and said, "There's a meeting at the pantry." I said, "Okay," and I went. There were some ladies in there. They were from the food bank. They asked several questions. Some of those were about me and my story, but it helped me to open up a little bit.
We're getting closer to the day when no one in America faces hunger, but we can't do it without you. Call or go online now. Visit helpfeedingamerica.org and give $19 a month, just 63 cents a day. 98% of donations go directly to help millions of people facing hunger, from coast to coast and in your own community. And when you give by credit card, we'll send you this exclusive canvas grocery bag to show you are a part of a movement of supporters working together to help end hunger.
I have people that I can trust. I have hope.
Please call now or make your monthly donation at helpfeedingamerica.org, and your gift can double in impact.
We come from a long line of farmers, and there's a sense of pride with being part of these multi-generational businesses.